right, you lot. They tried to cancel a game over a bloody hat. Not even a red one. Plain black cat with Make FPS Great Again stitched on it. And instead of laughing, clapping, or even shrugging, Terminally Online mob went full meltdown. Twitter rage threads, Reddit cryfests. I won't play Splitgate 2 cause CEO wore out that looks like a meme from 2016. You absolute panty sniffers. I want a political statement. That was sarcasm you could spot from orbit. You still missed it like a bronze 5 railgun shot. Call of Duty got roasted by a man in a black cap, and instead of saying, he's got a point, you lot started frothing like someone pissed in your G Fuel. Same crowd will meme about Activision selling skins at mortgage prices suddenly grew a conscience over embroidery. What fuck happened to gamers? Like, subscribe and all that bollocks if you're sick of most fragile people in hobby making most noise. Because today we're not pulling punches, we're naming names, lighting receipts, and putting outrage addicts under microscope where they fucking belong. You ready? Good, because rest of you might want to sit down. This gets messy. So let's talk about what actually happened. Ian Proulx, CEO of 1047 Games, walks out at Summer Games Fest wearing a hat. Just that, black, simple, make FPS great again. And instead of giving usual PR handshake and buzzword salad, man speaks from chest. I grew up playing Halo. I'm tired of playing same Call of Duty every year, and I wish we could have Titanfall 3. Now here's where terminally literal brigade lost their minds. Enter Kira, spitting this.
Ian used 1 minute of this presentation standing there in a Make FPS Games Great Again hat, holding a cartoon baseball bat, talking shit about some of the most beloved games in the FPS genre.
That's not commentary, that's propaganda with spines removed. You clipped soul out of what he said and filled it with saltwater tears. Man didn't throw shade, he lit a candle for games he loved and hated to see it rot from inside. This wasn't a hit piece, it were a eulogy, kind you only give when it hurts. It's actual moment, not through your hissy filter.
With the help from our amazing community, we've built Splitgate 2. Why? Because I grew up playing Halo, and I'm tired of playing the same Call of Duty every year, and I wish we could have Titanfall 3.
He didn't insult fans, he is one. He's just only one on that stage where might big enough to tell truth. And truth made you lot flinch. Not cause you were wrong, but cause you were right. And you didn't know where to put that feeling, so you lashed out at his bloody hat. This is what it looks like when someone who gives a toss about genre speaks plainly, and instead of listening, you clutched your pearls and cried, unprofessional, while COD re-released another full-price skin pack and Halo quietly forgot what a TTK even is. You don't get to gatekeep passion, you don't get to demand authenticity, then torch first dev in years who brings it. Kira didn't critique moment, he pouted through it. And worse, he chopped it up to make it look petty. That's not analysis, that's clickbait in a clown mask. Now here's comedy. Black Cat, with a meme stitched in it. Parody clear as day. Became lion in sand for gamers who swallow microtransaction turds from Activision without chewing. Kira pipes up again, practically bursting a vein with this pearl.
It just looked like he was trying to meme, but obviously when you combine it with everything else, it's just incredibly unprofessional, it's overall poor taste.
You daft content farming binfire. It were a meme. That's point. That's joke. That's shot across bow to an industry drowning in self-serious suits and TikTok trend chasing. And yet, here you are, calling it unprofessional while slinging a whole video with clipped quotes, drama bait, and shit-eating smirk. Only thing unprofessional here is your journalistic hygiene. 'Cause Ian explained it. Publicly. No spin, no PR slime, just raw truth. They needed to stand out. They tried something bold. It didn't land with everyone, and that's on them. He owned it, right there on camera.
Second thing I want to touch on is, yesterday we said make FPS great again. What does that mean? Obviously, some people didn't receive it the way we intended. Our intention is truly to make FPS as good as possible. It's plain and simple. But what does that mean? I mean, it's easy to say a sentence, but saying a sentence doesn't really matter if there's no action behind it. And so the first thing I want to do is double down on being community first and listening to you guys, because you guys are the reason we're here. And so the first action we're taking is we hear you loud and clear on the store prices. And so that Nano Swarm bundle, we're cutting the price in half. Some of the other items in the shop, we're reducing prices across the board. And we're going to keep monitoring it. We're going to keep listening. But that's what we're taking action on today. We're also going to be issuing refunds for the kind of the difference in pricing for the split coin that you spent. You will get that back. So now and going forward, this will be the new standard that we set.
That's what leadership looks like. Accountability without PR bib. And yet you, Kira, sat there pretending like that explanation never existed, so you could sell drama instead. You're not criticising marketing here, you're sanitising outrage to fit your narrative. Man wore a cap, you wore a grudge. One of those things gets washed and reused, others just content rot. Next time you want to talk unprofessional, maybe try not using someone's sincerity as a ladder for your own fucking engagement. Now let's talk Steam charts, shall we? Lazy bit where every smooth brain with a mic goes, look at Steam charts, like they've just unlocked Rosetta Stone. Here's what Kira threw out with both hands.
And they managed to get 25,000 players concurrent. Not only that, but the game has died faster than the first one.
And then straight onto Twonk Special.
And less than 2 months after release, they have less than 1,500 concurrent players on the game daily, at least on Steam. There will be more on consoles.
Steam bloody charts. Graveyard stat that's been twisted into gospel by every clout-humping drama peddler since dawn of digital storefronts. Let me spell it out for soft lads at back. Steam numbers show a fraction at total player base. Splitgate 2 launched on console, Epic Games, Game Pass, and Steam. That's 4 funnels. Steam's just one of them. You quote it like it's fucking census, while you're dancing around 25k on Steam. Real number? Confirmed by devs were over 3 million players. It's not a flop, it's a foundation. Can't call ours condemned cause one window's dusty. But even worse, you're not even consistent. Same people who scream that Steam charts don't count for COD suddenly treat it as scripture for Splitgate. Pick a standard and fucking stick to it. You want context? Fine. OG Splitgate stopped getting updates while they built Splitgate 2. Population dipped, naturally. But core stayed. You can still fire it up today and get a match in 20 seconds flat and have a proper laugh. That's not dead. That's not dying. That's stable. Meanwhile, Kira tries to paint it like genre spat it out. Nah, mate. You just didn't like that devs asked for feedback, listened to it, and then acted on it. They didn't vanish. They put game back into beta. You know, thing players begged them to do. That's not failure. That's community-led dev. God sure as hell never did that. Steam charts don't show community sentiment. They don't show console queues. They don't show art. They show one metric. You weaponized it like a toddler with a ruler trying to measure respect. This is where Twonk hits DEFCON stupid. Kira unloads this little pearl.
The game had gone live almost immediately, and in the store was an $80 microtransaction. Let's remember what the word micro means here.
Congratulations, you just read a dictionary out loud. And like every other bad-faced commenter clinging to one price tag, you skipped entire context. Yeah, there were an overpriced bundle. No, it wasn't permanent. And yeah, Ian addressed it, publicly. He even called out problem, named Root, and said they were fixing it.
Is we hear you loud and clear on the store prices. And so that Nano Swarm bundle, we're cutting the price in half. Some of the other items in the shop, we're reducing prices across the board. And we're going to keep monitoring it. We're going to keep listening. But that's what we're taking action on today. Wanted to start by explaining, obviously we put out a video, we slashed the prices yesterday. But I've had a lot of people ask me, like, how the hell did this happen in the first place? Like $80 bundle, like that's not the 1047 way. And I agree. So I thought I would just candidly tell you exactly what happened. So I'll start by saying, no excuse, of course. Like, I should have been on this. Before I explain, like, we should have been on top of this. But what happened is the second I got off that stage, I called Derek, our lead game designer, and I said, Derek, like, did you know we had an $80 bundle? Like, this is news to me. Like, what the heck? Like, that makes no sense. And he didn't. And essentially what happened is our former head of monetization, who happened to come from Call of Duty, was with us for less than a year and was very aggressive on the pricing. And so actually prior to his departure, we actually originally had founders packs at $100. We had battle passes at $10. And the first thing Derek and I did when we reevaluated everything a month ago was we slashed those things. So founders went from 100 to 60. We also added in-game currency that it originally wasn't going to have. We decreased the battle pass from $10 to $5. But unfortunately, things slipped through the cracks. And so that's how we ended up with an $80 bundle. Our goal has always been to make a fun game that people love. I fundamentally believe the best way as a business truly to make money is not to charge the players an egregious amount. It's to be generous and thoughtful and listen to feedback. And that's what we want to do, and that's what we want to prove to you.
But you didn't quote that. You went full tabloid instead. Claimed CEO blamed some shadowy figure like it were a Tom Clancy subplot.
And Ian could again have just addressed this in an apology and said, my bad, we'll fix it, it's now halved, problem solved, no worries. But instead, he took to social media to record an off-the-cuff video blaming the $80 bundle and other monetization issues that the game has on an ex-developer who he specifically mentions came from Call of Duty.
He didn't blame Guy. He explained where monetization model came from. Former monetization lead who brought in practices lifted from COD. That's not scapegoating. That's transparency. You act like devs are supposed to wear PR gags while studio burns down. He stepped forward and told truth. No lawyers, no weasel words, just facts. And funnily enough, Ian also said he should have caught it. He should have vetted decisions better. And he is one making sure it doesn't happen again. You don't get to leave that part out and pretend you're presenting full story. That's not critique. That's creative editing for clicks. COD's been gouging wallets for years and gets a free pass. But a small studio tries to fix a mistake in real time, and you come swinging with smirk like caught 'em selling NFTs to children. You call it unprofessional, I call it rare. A dev owning his shit, in public, no script, and still turning up next day to keep building. That's not a meltdown, that's a fucking spine. Let's move to your biggest tantrum, rebranding to beta. Spoiler alert, community asked for it. So guess what happened? Yeah, they listened. Shocking, I know. See, this is where Twonk tries to land a finishing blow and ends up punching his own reflection.
Not just that, but in an almost unprecedented and hilarious turn of events, they're pulling what I like to call an Amazon Game Studios, and they've essentially unreleased the game, going from Splitgate 2 is now here to Splitgate 2 is kind of here, but now we're calling it a beta instead, while at the same time shutting down official servers for the first game.
And you say that like it's failure, like it's a joke, like it's some Amazon level bait and switch. Nah, it's called listening. Community said it felt unfinished. Community said they wanted refinement. Community asked for transparency, not polish. And Ian, so-called unprofessional clown, actually did one thing your beloved AAA giants never do. He said, fair enough, we'll go back to beta. That's not cowardice. That's courage. That's the studio saying we'd rather fix it weird than fake it for headlines. That's kind of move that builds trust, not clout. You want to compare that to Amazon? Alright. When Amazon unreleased the game, it were after nuking its servers, sacking devs, and memory holding marketing material like it never existed. Splitgate 2 still online, still being updated, still getting feedback. That's difference between a retreat and a recalibration. You called it embarrassing. I call it rare as rocking horse shit. Let's talk about community, because this next bit is where your mask truly slips. When you pretend Splitgate 2 is some ghost town cause for Steam numbers, as if 3 million players across platforms don't count if they're not tabbed into your flavour of launcher. Meanwhile, official servers for OG Splitgate, yeah, they're winding down, cause they told us they would. They moved forward, didn't hide it, didn't pretend it was still being supported. They gave us notice, gave us time, and explained why, so they could focus everything on making sequel better. Not a cover-up. It's not betrayal, it's devs actually finishing what they fucking started. Which is more than can be said for your research, Kira. All that shallow-ass take on advanced mechanics. This is where Kira's mask don't just slip, falls off and shatters. Meltdown of a portal starts like this.
the game just wasn't that great. You know, it was relying heavily on a gimmick that once wore thin, revealed that the game underneath didn't have the legs to carry it further.
Right, because new mechanics that raise skill ceiling must be gimmicks, yeah? That's not analysis. That's code from someone who saw Portal, panicked, and Alt F4'd like tutorial loading child support. Then this corker.
That same gimmick also resulted in casual players being forced out of the game very quickly, never to return. You can think of this basically like Fortnite building mode.
No, mate, you missed entire point like a bot trying to snipe through a wall. Portals weren't forced, they were empowered. You could play with them. We had them. Original Splitgate already had a no portals mode. 1047 listened when players asked for it. That's not forcing out, that's choice. Sweats who wanted to zip line across dimensions could do it. Casuals who just wanted Halo with better TTK could have that too. You act like the locked portals behind a paywall and laughed. You said it didn't translate to other games. Of course it didn't. That's fucking point. It wanted to clone. It were trying something different. Not slapping a new scope on an M4 and calling it a seasonal update. You know what actually forced casuals out at games? SBMM, loot grind, battle passes with dailies designed like chores. Not movement mechanics. You got it backwards and upside down. You talk about common sense mechanics like it's some gold standard. Mate, COD's common sense is to load into a map, walk 5 feet, and get insta-dinked by someone abusing packet burst. That's not design. That's a treadmill. Splitgate had something fresh. You couldn't cheese it with one build. You couldn't coast. You had to learn. You had to adapt. And when people said it were too much, devs built alternatives. Not excuses. That's more than most games ever do. So now, Portals didn't kill casuals. What killed casuals were lack of patience from players like you. Ones who scream innovation and then cry when they have to move the thumbs a bit more. Kira tries to land final punch with this limp excuse for her conclusion.
You essentially have a CEO's actions and a game's poor performance, and you can add one and one together here and say, this is his fault.
No, you twonk. What you've done is YouTube equivalent to blaming a power cut on toaster. You're not adding facts. You're gluing together worst faith takes you could find and hoping nobody notices receipts don't match. Ian Proulx didn't tank Splitgate 2. He risked more than most CEOs ever would. He put his face on it, his voice on it. He said quiet part loud. The FPS genre has gone stale. That COD's been cloning itself since Ghost. That Titanfall were murdered by its own publisher. That we all miss when shooters had soul instead of spreadsheets. And you called that tearing down your betters. Then you drop this dramatic little finale.
After all, people aren't going to keep throwing good money after bad.
You mean like Activision shareholders do every time they greenlight another 80 quid reskin and call it a new game? Splitgate 2 still online, still updating, still being shaped by players who didn't run crying over a mean cap. That's not failure, that's foundation. Ian didn't dodge, he didn't spin, he stepped up, got roasted, took it on chin and kept building. There's not clown here, you are. For thinking you could bury a dev who actually gives a damn under a pile of snark, snips and selective outrage. That act didn't kill Splitgate, Twitter didn't kill Splitgate, and Ian sure as hell didn't kill Splitgate. You want a culprit? Look in mirror. Cause it's your kind of commentary, shallow, smug and spoon-fed, that turns every honest misstep into scandal and every brave statement into cancellation. And that's where we leave it. You brought bad faith to a fact fake, now it's all laid out. Join Discord, follow our next. Consider a channel membership if you still think sarcasm should come with a warning label. Smash like it, subscribe, drop your comments and questions below. Unless you're still crying about a cap. I'll see you next time, you magnificent.